Can a breath test for suspicion of drunk driving be successfully challenged? That's our topic on this episode of State Law TV. My guest today is Andy Alpert, a nationally renowned DUI defense lawyer, and he's going to talk with us about this topic. So Andy, thank you for being here today.
It's my pleasure to be here, sir.
Well, Andy, first of all, explain to us what exactly is a breath test. Okay.
In Maryland, when you go to the station and you are arrested, you are first read what's called the Advice of Rights form in the state of Maryland. And it tells you all about your rights to whether or not you can take a breath test and what the penalties, at least administratively, are, when I say administratively, towards your driving license are for taking that test. If you elect to take that test, as of this date, would be on an intoximeter ECIR-1, which is a form of a breathalyzer. And you would be required to provide 2 samples into the machine, 2 samples of your breath, and then you would get like a ticker tape, like you would get at the Safeway or the Giant, would come out with your test results on that ticker tape. And that would be used against you both administratively against your driver's license and also in court as evidence against you in a DUI case.
Okay, now are there any circumstances where that information is not admissible in court?
Well, first of all of that has to be done according to strict guidelines. So the first thing that we would want to do in terms of trying to challenge it is to make sure that all of the guidelines have been followed correctly. So to the extent that there are any improprieties, in other words, the police officer has not followed proper procedure, then, and we could demonstrate that, then there's the potential that we could keep out the breath test from being entered into evidence. In other words, it couldn't be used against you at the trial. In addition, when you come to my office, you are given a lengthy medical questionnaire form to fill out. The reason for the medical questionnaire is because we want to know whether you have any issues medically that could potentially affect the breathalyzer test results. So, for instance, if you have gastrointestinal reflux disease, that could potentially result in a higher breath test than would be accurate of your true breath alcohol content.
Well, now, are there any situations that you see, or how often does it occur where these tests are conducted in, they're just not conducted properly?
Cindy, it is dependent entirely upon how well trained the police officer is and whether or not they have followed the proper procedures that are outlined by the regulations of the toxicologist for the state of Maryland. And depending upon what the police officer does in each individual case determines whether or not there is a defense. As far as percentages, I can tell you that it really is unpredictable. Certain agencies, for instance police agencies, are better at following procedures than other police agencies. So we try to look at it on a very individualized basis. We want to look at every single case and scrutinize every single case to determine whether or not there are proper procedures that have been followed. But I will tell you that a lot of times you don't even know until you get into trial because you just don't know if the police officer is going to leave out one of the elements that's required to get the breath test into evidence. So that's the advantage sometimes to trying cases because police officers don't lay the proper foundation, test result doesn't come in, you might prevail on your DUI case.
Well, Andy, if someone has specific questions, how can they reach you?
The best way to reach me is to call my office, which is 301-262-7005. If you should be in that position where you're out on the side of the roadway or you're back at the station and you need to know what to do and you've asked to speak to an attorney, you can call my cell phone, which is 301-775-4572. And if you want further information just in general about DUI and specifically about our firm and how we handle DUI cases, there's 2 ways to do it. You can go on the internet at andrewalpert.com or Maryland-DUI.com.
Very good. Well, Andy, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
This is Cindy Speaker for State Law TV.